Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
We're sneaking in an episode here between vacations. Summer's been a little dicey for different reasons, but we're going to celebrate this Kveik Hot Porch Double IPA.
Wow.
We did a recipe development show with Matt Giovanisi of Brew Cabin and Josh Secor of Gambit Brewing Company in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I had a couple of pouches of POG from Imperial Yeast, which is Ebegarden Kveik, and I said, I want to do a big, like hoppy beer with sugar out on the porch. And then I was like, well, that's could be kind of like a triple. So
Yeah.
so I said, let's not do a triple because I did something similar recently. So we decided to do a double IPA. And, we love the Kveik. We love, especially in the summertime, we love not having to chill down to, typical yeast pitching temperature. So I think it turned out pretty good. We'll see what you think.
Okay.
I started out with 9 gallons or 34 liters of water at 159 degrees Fahrenheit or 70.5 C. Into that, I added 15 pounds or 6.8 kilograms of Reese Pale 2-row. I mashed at 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C for 90 minutes. I collected my wort and I started a 1 hour, 15-minute boil, and it came out that way just because I was tracking the gravity. At the beginning of that boil, I added 1 pound or 450 grams of table sugar and 1 ounce or 28 grams of Warrior at 14.2% alpha acid for that entire full boil. Now at the end of that boil, I shut off the heat and I did a 20-minute hop stand with 2 ounces or 56 grams each of Mosaic at 12.2% alpha acid, Amarillo at 8.1% alpha acid, and El Dorado at 14.6% alpha acid. And that hop stand started out at 208 degrees Fahrenheit or 98 C, wound up at 184 degrees Fahrenheit or 84 C for those who are curious. Now I chilled down to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 C and pitched A37 POG without a starter, and I set it out on the porch. It was warm. It wasn't hot, but it was warm. I set it out on the porch for 24 hours, and I brought it back inside because it was starting to cool off a little bit. Anyway, 2 days after I pitched the yeast, I did a dry hop with the same amount of hops, 2 ounces or 56 grams each of Mosaic, Amarillo, and El Dorado. And 2 days later, I took those hops out. I did I checked the gravity, it was at 10-12. I decided to let it sit for a couple more days. And then I bottled when it got at 10-10. And I bottled all of the beer. So we went from 1075 to 1010 for an ABV of 8.6%.
Nice.
And my calculator says 253 calories for a 12-ounce serving. And I got 45 beers out of the batch. So just, people like stats.
They do. Now, if you went into a bar and ordered a double IPA, would you get 4 beers?
You might as well. And that should be all you get. Now there's a bit of sediment on the bottom, so
that's okay.
You want to pour and just
I'll
be
pour.
Judicious on your pouring there. But
You bet.
I think, and I actually used, I adjusted my water for this, which I usually am too lazy to do that. But I wanted to make sure that we get all the nice, delicious hoppiness out of this. And POG, supposedly when it's fermented at the upper end of its temperature range, which is this, you get more tropical fruit, kind of mango-y kind of flavors. So I think that this should go well.
It smells
with
delicious.
hops. Cheers.
I brewed when I pitched POG 2.0. It's called Pong. But it just kept bouncing back at me.
I picture the reverse of that. Gnop. But old game references that nobody remembers anymore.
Yeah, that's in the Galaxy and Atari. Or Atari. Oh, that's really good. I rail against these big hoppy beers anymore. Not rail, but I've kind of gone to the Pilsner Helles side of the world.
Right.
These are so good.
Yeah. Yeah, the bitterness is there. It's nice. It's enough to balance the beer. Plus, with the sugar, adding the table sugar, it increases the alcohol, increases the original gravity, but it also decreases the final gravity because it's more fermentable, so it dries it out. I think if I hadn't used the sugar, this would taste more gloppy.
I do too, yeah.
And sweet, but I think it's nice. It's not super dry.
No, there's a little residual sweetness in there. Yeah, you're right. A beer like this can either be really gloppy and this is very well balanced, and I love the hop combination. That's kind of one of your favorite hop combinations over the years.
Well, I love Amarillo. We always love Amarillo. Mosaic has its fans and its detractors. I think it came out well in this one. I know we did a hop sampler with El Dorado, and we liked it quite a bit. But we came up with these hops, as a collaboration on the show between Matt and Josh and I. I can't wait for them to taste it because I think it's really good. Now, this is the first big batch, 5-gallon batch that I've bottled all of it in a long time, and I did that because I feel I'm afraid that when I do like keg fills into the bottle, I think that I expose the beer to a bit of oxygen, and that may cause some oxidation. It may age the beer. It may dull the hops.
Yeah,
I didn't want that to happen with all these hops in this beer.
Yeah,
that's like 2, 4, 6, 13 ounces of hops.
Phew, gotta take out a mortgage to make that.
So I wanted to protect that as much as possible by bottle conditioning the beer.
Oh, that is absolutely lovely. I really like that a lot.
And about, half serving is probably good enough.
Yeah.
Especially because for us right now, it's before lunch.
Before breakfast for me.
So I don't know I do get tropical fruit. I do get mango. I don't know how much of that can be attributed to the POG, but it certainly didn't hurt.
No, it's wonderful.
But I think it's a delicious beer. It's kind of, back in the old days, in the early days of like double IPAs and stuff like that, they tend to, that was back in the, arrogant bastard day where everything was like super bitter and however many hundreds of, IBUs you could cram in a beer.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like a dare to drink these beers.
I dare you.
I don't feel this way about this beer. I think it's good. It's hoppy. It's plenty bitter, but there's enough fruit and malt deliciousness to balance it out. The
bittering characteristic in the beer reminds me a little bit of Avery IPA.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's reminiscent, and I haven't had one of those in years, but I used to have many of those.
Yes, it was a delicious beer.
And like at one time it was like my favorite IPA. This reminds me of that. It brings me back to my beer childhood.
And it's probably about the same as their Maharaja.
Yeah.
But I think Maharaja was a little more sticky than
It's stickier and gloppier. I mean, Maharaja was a really good beer, so we're not putting it down.
not turning it down.
But this is I think actually that's a better analogy than my IPA. I think it's closer to Maharaja now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Wow.
Boy, I love this beer. It's really good.
It is.
Get yourself some POG from Imperial.
Don't use Pong.
Or Gnip. And ferment on your hot porch if you got one, because, it's delicious. It's the time to brew big, delicious tropical beers.
Absolutely.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Come and visit us online at basicbrewing.com. You can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on homebrewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer.
Gnip. It was a long time before I figured out that was ping pong backwards.
Gnip.
Gnip. I was like, boy, that is the most awkward name of a game ever.